Welcome to Quack&Co, the board game channel that's 10 minutes or less guaranteed every time. And today, we're talking about this massive big box experience, Euthia. Specifically, 3 reasons why it's worth paying attention to, where we give you an overview of the game and then dive into elements that make it stand out or unique from other games that you might have in your collection. Now, along with this, we're going to have a full review over on BoardgameCo, a gameplay over on Quackalope, and there is another campaign in the works. So, if you want to get your hands on this, stay tuned, because there's going to be another opportunity and a few more expansions and modules added in to Euthia. So, let's talk about what this game is. This is a massive, big box miniatures experience, but it's not sprawling with miniatures all over the board. Instead, it follows in the vein of Mage Knight, for instance, with your heroes displayed on the table, and then a few larger miniatures like a griffin over on the side, but primarily an experience where you set out a journey of tiles and then encounter various different creatures, villains, and obstacles along your way, flipping cards to resolve attacks, damage, and whatever the quests you're on are. For instance, this entire row up here. The object of Euthia is going to be based from scenario to scenario. Slay the beast, pick up the resources, score enough victory points, explore the land, so on and so forth. And it plays solo all the way up, I believe, to 4 players. I'm checking the box beside me, and I am accurate. Although I do think that it shines as a solo or my favorite 2-player system. In Euthia, you will be flipping tiles and exploring the landscape. Each one of these tiles comes as a numbered stack, and anytime you enter near the edge of a location, you'll be placing out to fill in the map. This varies and opens up the world as you explore, giving you lots of actions and utility across the board. Now, every scenario will be different, and every scenario will scale depending on where you're starting, your starting level, gear, equipment, but we're going to have a set of unique asymmetric characters that all specialize in certain progression pathways, but you can diverge however you need to accomplish whatever goal you're after. The ultimate object of Euthia is going to be to score the most victory points, and in a lot of the scenarios, you do that by slaying creatures, completing quests, and upgrading your own personal supply. An average game will last somewhere around 2.5 to maybe 3 hours, with some of the longer campaigns definitely bridging over into the 4 and 5 hour range, and some of the more accessible bite-sized ones at 2-player may be sinking down to just over 2 hours if you're experienced. Some of the things that make Euthia cool. Let's talk about the 3 reasons you should be paying attention to this game. Well, first off, it is a big box. It is a big box and arguably accessible big box experience. This game, while having a ton here across the table, also has a lot of supporting components like this tile organizer here that help you get it to the table as quickly and efficiently as possible. You will have to spend some time reading the scenarios, setting up, and getting everything guidelines, but for myself, this is a big box experience that I'll actually see myself pulling off the shelf and setting up to play with friends. It is giant and sprawling, and for an epic campaign like this with so many different modules, so many different heroes, so many different ways to equip, upgrade, and experience the puzzle, there is a lot here that I think is done very well in terms of making it playable. And it's not an overly complicated game. The rulebook is well written and built out, and once you know the game, finding answers to some of the questions you have has been very easy and accessible. And honestly, I feel like I could sit down 2 weeks from now and be pretty much ready to go with just a few iconography checks to refresh myself in some of the context, and a few of the nuanced details maybe needing to be written down on a scratch piece of paper. 3 or 4 of them that you don't always perfectly remember, like storing and slotting gems and how you use them and then sell them for 1+ value. But the core principle here, the core concept, the core gameplay of Euthia is an experience that you can actually pull off the shelf. Now, let's bridge on to the next thing that I think is worth talking about, and that's going to be the asymmetric players and abilities they have. So every player will come with their own board that has unique unlock slots and proficiencies in terms of where they can upgrade gear, but they also come with a giant stack of leveling tiles, each one with unique abilities that pair specifically for your hero. Like for instance here, I'm sitting in front of the mage. The mage spawns a teleporter, gets magic abilities like fire, firebolt, and a staff of fire. And over the course of the game, I will pair what I'm buying from the market with the abilities that I'm unlocking as I go up the point track and generating new and new tableau construction. There's certain elements or certain moments in the game where you're engaged in a combat round against another player and you're spawning, flipping, triggering a dozen things on your board, double checking all the little mechanics, but you've built up to that point in most of the gameplay experiences you have, and so for me it feels really cool. You start off with a lizard sling, and then you double check the fact that you have healing power with your gauntlets. Your greaves give you more defense. You're able to summon 2 of the gems you have to get a proficiency on your attack, like my lucky gloves here. And then after the battle's over, I can tap the Lord of the Portals to pop into another location and continue my action. I really like the character boards, and I don't know of another game that makes character development in an RPG style, and like gearing yourself out in whatever way you want to customize, quite as accessible and yet open-ended as Euthia does. It really is nice to slot tiles down onto your board and as you progress the game, watch your character develop and tell the story. The last thing that I want to highlight, the third of the third thing that I want to talk about, is going to be the different varied ways to experience this game. Euthia is going to be built off of a core set of scenarios, and those scenarios can jump you in at level 1, just really struggling to get up and running, a squabbling hero who's just learning magic, or they could throw you in mid-game or late game, meaning that depending on your experience with the game and your experience with different stages of the puzzle, whether you want more complex characters that have a depth of actions and abilities from the very beginning, or you want to watch your character progress from someone who needs to buy gauntlets and gear and find that new weapon, there's a story to be told here. And it doesn't stop at that. The new expansion that's coming out is going to be highlighting and focusing on some of the solo elements of the game, enhancing those storytelling points, so you're not just completing quests and going on missions, but instead you have more of an open world to explore. I like the campaigns and the style of the campaigns a lot. It means that the experience I'm diving into is different from region to region. Sometimes it is score victory points by slaying beasts. Other times it's take down the big bad. Other times it is secure the haven, explore the land, conquer the various different objectives that you have, and collect certain types of resources. There's a lot going on here, and a lot that's worth paying attention to. Hopefully I've been able to show that to you in the past, I guess, 8 minutes or so. Whatever the case, I was going to go with my Quackalope ending, but that's not how that works. Remember, less time watching is more time playing. And hit that subscribe button down below if you're enjoying the content here on Quack&Co. We'll see you next time. Thank you.